Welcome to the second lesson of the Azon Masterclass. Today we are going to be learning about keyword research and niche research. This is going to take us from the point we ended in the previous lesson where we had a list of potential Amazon product niches, and we are now going to dive into search engine data to try to figure out whether or not these niches would be a good idea to target or not. Once we have that figured out, we will use this same knowledge that we learned today to expand on one of those product niches to come up with a list of keyword phrases. And this keyword phrase list is something that we will continue to use in the next lesson, where we are actually trying to get our entire site planned. So we're basically basing each page throughout a website on a specific keyword. This way we know that the content that we build, the pages we build, the products we target, all of these different things have the potential to attract search engine traffic for us. So to start out with, I want to go to the Google Keyword Planner. Now, one thing worth mentioning here, if you do not run any ads on Google AdWords, you can still use the keyword planner. However, they may show you a range of traffic instead of an exact number for each of the keyword phrases. So instead of seeing something like 500 as the monthly search traffic level, you might see a range that says 100 to 1,000. Now, in most cases, this really is not that big of a deal. The majority of the keywords that I'll be looking for will be in the 100 to 1,000 range. So as long as I'm picking a selection of, say, 20 different phrases that are between 100 and 1,000 searches, then this should give me enough traffic to base an entire website on. However, one little trick that you can do, even if you're not running ads on AdWords, is once you get to a final list of keyword phrases, add these keywords to a campaign within Google AdWords. You don't have to actually create any ads or, do anything like that. But just by adding them to the campaign, you can explore a little deeper into them and it'll actually tell you some traffic numbers for those phrases, even without running ads. My account does run ads though, so you will see exact numbers during this particular tutorial. So what we want to do once we have gone to the Google Keyword Planner is we want to take our list of product niche ideas and do a little bit of research on them. We want to figure out how many people are searching for those things. If they're not searching for the exact thing that we had written down as a product niche, then we can still explore that a little bit here and figure out, is there a different keyword phrase that I could use to try to target this type of product? So with that said, I have my list from the previous lesson of these different product niches that I had found during the actual class. So I can now take these one at a time and research them here within the Google Keyword Planner. So I'll just take robot building kit here as an example to use for this tutorial. So I'm going to click on search for new keywords using a phrase, website, or category. This will expand the box so I can put my keyword phrase in under your product or service. I also want to make sure that this is set to the United States and to Google. This ensures that I get accurate data for what I am trying to find. Because ultimately, if I'm looking to promote an Amazon.com product, I want traffic that's coming from the United States. So if I'm wanting to get that traffic off of a search engine, I need to know how many people within the United States are actually searching for those terms. So I can see here that robot building kit has 3,600 average monthly searches. Now, ultimately, I'm really looking for a keyword here that has maybe around 500, possibly upwards of 1,000 keyword or monthly searches in order for it to be one of my primary words for this entire website. I'm basically looking for a phrase that would summarize my whole website, but then that phrase would also have search traffic for it. Typically, when you're dealing with a keyword phrase that has around 500 monthly searches, you're most likely going to have low competition or at least manageable competition. And I'm talking about other affiliates, other websites out there on the internet that are either trying to rank for this phrase or are strongly ranking for it, whether they have actually attempted to do so or not. Because you need to be able to build content that's going to ultimately outrank maybe not everybody, but a good portion of those people. And the more people you have going after a particular keyword phrase, the harder it becomes to actually get a good ranking on that phrase. So there are two different tabs here that you can work with. One of them is the keyword ideas. This one gives you a listing of different keywords that are similar to what you typed in. So even if your keyword has too many searches on it, you can continue on down through the list and try to find something similar that's a more manageable amount of searches. Now, sure, it would be great to get a good search ranking on this particular keyword phrase here, but the point is we're trying to save ourselves some research time with the next step and narrow this down to a list of phrases that are most likely going to be what we are looking for. Now I'll get back to the keyword ideas here in just a minute. I want to flip over to the ad group ideas real quick just to show you a few things. Under ad group ideas, it works pretty much the same way, except all the keywords are sorted into what they call ad groups. So each ad group has a certain theme. Kits for adults, basically, on this one. Programmable robots, programmable robot kits, toy robots. So depending on what you're trying to target, whether or not you're trying to target some sort of closely defined topic within your main niche idea. Like if I didn't want to just go after robot building kits, if I specifically wanted to go after programmable ones or ones for adults, or maybe I only wanted to go after the parts, I can more closely define what my website's going to be about if I could narrow it down into something more specific like this. So the ad group ideas helps to give you some ideas for that, and it also helps you to explore the different keyword phrases that are available for it. So when you click on one of these, it'll take you to another list that's going to show you the actual individual keywords and the search amounts for them. So you can look into one of these ad groups, get an idea of whether or not there are enough keyword phrases to try to center an entire site around this idea. And if nothing else, you can get some ideas as far as specific keyword phrases that you could go after. Now, when it comes to my primary keyword phrase, I'm usually not looking for one that contains words that don't really have much in the way of a meaning. I'm looking for more keyword-based phrases. So right here, the word for doesn't really have much meaning. If it was building kits adults and it made sense, obviously, that would be a good choice because it has 480 monthly searches. But most of these seem to have the word for in it. I wouldn't really want to pick one of those for the primary keyword phrase for my site. Now, if I look at the programmable ones, it looks like some here might be a good possibility. Programmable robot toy is one of them. It has 480 monthly searches. So I can just make a list of these. I'll make a note of the amount of searches that it had for it too. So you can continue on like this to try to find ideas for this primary keyword phrase. You can also go through the keyword ideas listing like I was mentioning to you before. Now this keyword ideas tab, it does not have anything grouped up. It's really searching more by relevance than it is trying to organize things. So the most relevant keywords based on what I searched for are being listed at the top. And then as I scroll down, they become less and less relevant to the original thing that I searched for. But you can actually get pretty deep into these listings and still have the keywords be pretty relevant to what you are searching for in a lot of cases. So in the same way, I am looking for a keyword phrase somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 monthly searches. Also a keyword phrase that could summarize my entire website. And again, I'm making a listing of these so I can continue on in later parts of the training with it. Now, one other thing that is worthwhile to point out to you here. In addition to the keyword and the monthly searches, there are a number of other pieces of information that Google makes available to you for each keyword phrase. Two of these are not important to me at all. The competition and the suggested bid amount. I do not pay any attention to these. Competition here, while this sounds like it would be what I was talking about before, where we want a low competition keyword phrase, this is not in relation to the actual search engine competition. We're wanting to build a website and to build pages on a website that are going to rank in the organic search results of Google. So this means we're not going to pay anything to try to rank on these keywords, to try to get traffic off of these keyword phrases. You have to remember that this keyword planner is part of Google AdWords. So this is for people that are going to be advertising on Google AdWords. So this competition relates to that. It relates to the advertising competition on this keyword phrase. This might mean if you have high competition here, you might have high competition in the organic search results, but it doesn't guarantee it. So this is another reason why I ignore it. There could be a great keyword phrase that says it's high competition here, but it might not actually be high competition for you with trying to build content to rank on that keyword phrase. Now, another piece of information that they provide to you is this little graph icon that's next to the average monthly search amount. If you hover over this icon, you will see a graph showing you the previous 12 months worth of searches. But it breaks this down into those individual months. The average count here for this keyword phrase, 3,600, this is the last 12 months worth of traffic. They take that total number for the year and they divide it by 12 to give you this number. So that's why they call it the average over the last year. With this trend graph, you're not getting the average for the year. You're being shown what actually happens during each month of the year. This is important because there are a lot of niches and keyword phrases that are seasonal, or some of them might even be trending. Some of them might be trending up, so they're getting more popular over time. Some of them might be trending down, so they're getting less popular over time. If you're going to build a website centered around this topic, and you're going to be dependent upon this search traffic, it's good to know how this trend for this keyword phrase is actually going. Now, there are a lot of different reasons why you can have graphs that are not just level for every month. Search traffic does vary from month to month, but then there are specific reasons why some phrases have a lot more traffic during certain times of the year. With a lot of products, if they are good ideas for Christmas gifts, you will see something similar to what you see here. In October, the traffic is right at what the average search amount is, 3,600. But then in November and December, there are 9,900 searches. So that's more than twice. It's about 2.5 times as much each of these 2 months as the average throughout the whole year. But then you have other times of the year, April and May, there's only 1,900 searches, and that's a lot less than this average count. So sometimes this 3,600 isn't representative of what you're going to get in any given month. Knowing whether your product niche is something that's seasonal, if it's based in the Christmas holiday, for example, being able to know that ahead of time can help you to balance your expectations and to even balance your entire website portfolio. As an Amazon affiliate, you'll do much better if you build numerous websites and not just one. And it can be a good idea to know these trends because you may not want all of your websites to be this type of a website where you have immense popularity during November and December, and then the rest of the year it's a lot less. It's not a bad thing to have a site like this, but if all of your websites were like this, you'd make a lot right around the holidays, but then the rest of the year you wouldn't be making anywhere near as much. You might even be making like a third during these months as what you would have made in this month. So by having a balanced portfolio where you have some niches that are trending during the holiday season, but then you can do the opposite of that. And for example, if you target anything water or outdoor related, um, swimming pools, just as an example, swimming pools are going to be down during the cold months of the year. And during the warmer summer months, the traffic will be a lot higher for those keywords. So by having a mix of these different types of sites, you can cover all of the different seasonal trends and always have a website that's kind of in its prime at any given moment. This will help to balance out your monthly income over the course of time. Now, this can also be useful to do more than just detect a seasonal phrase. Something might be trending up or trending down over time. If it is gaining or losing popularity, for example. I know from my kids that one of the recent crazes is a fidget spinner. Obviously, there are a lot of monthly searches for this. There were 5 million average monthly searches. But when you look at the keyword data for this on a month-to-month basis, you see a much different picture. In May of this year, there were over 30 million searches. That's 6 times as many during that month. But if you look at other months, a year ago, back in October of 2016, there were only 33,000 searches for it. Now, is this graph shooting up right here in the middle because it's seasonal? Do you think next May it will actually bounce back to this level? At a first glance, you might think that, yeah, this is just really popular right at the beginning of the summer or something, and then it trails off for the rest of the year. That's not the case with this keyword phrase, though. Fidget spinner is a recent fad that happened. And so they were relatively not popular or not known about by very many people a year ago. But then all of a sudden, they caught on the beginning of 2017. It jumped from 60,000 searches to 200 to 670 to 2.2 million to 13.6 million and then up to 30 million. After this craze reached its peak, though, it started to die back down to 9 million, then to 3.3 million, then 1.5 million. In September, it was back down to 1 million. So I'd be willing to bet that this trend will continue downward. These things will kind of plateau back out to a lower level once they kind of balance in terms of the fad dying down, and then it'll kind of go back to a normal level of popularity. So with a niche like this, if you had been able to catch this pretty early on, back in November or December, if you noticed that this was immediately starting to jump up and you had a feeling this was going to catch on as a trend or a fad, if you could have jumped on it back here, it would have been a lot better. You don't want to be jumping on it when it's at its peak. You certainly don't want to be jumping on it once it has lost its peak. Using this strategy, though, you can identify when a product niche is on its way up, when it's on its way down. And if you can get on it early enough when it's on its way up, you can beat out a lot of the other competition before the market gets flooded. By the time you get up to this point where it's peaking, there's a ton of search engine competition. So now that it's gone back down, there's still going to be a ton of competition left over from this peak period. But your chances of getting in and getting a good ranking, even though the traffic has gone back down, will be pretty slim. So if you can find a new type of product that is coming out and you think it's going to be trending upward, or maybe you're already starting to see an upward trend, that would be the best time to jump on it. Once these average monthly counts start to top 1,000, the search engine competition grows immensely. Because this is an average over the last year, and a lot of people depend on this number to try to find a good keyword phrase to target. If you get on the bandwagon pretty early, let's say you jumped on it down here when it was at 673. The average for the year from this point behind that, the previous year before February, that average would have been much, much lower. It would have only showed maybe 50,000 monthly searches or something like that, because most of the year was only getting 33,000. In this same way, if you're looking for a much lower monthly search traffic amount, if you're looking for something between 500 and 1,000, you can go even lower than that sometimes. You can look at something that only has 200 monthly searches. If it's trending upward, the actual traffic going on at that current moment in time will be a lot higher than the average is going to show you. With this example, Fiddle Toys has 880, but if I look at the monthly traffic amounts on it, up here it was hitting 1900. So if this was earlier in the fad, before the popularity died back off, if we were back around here, the traffic level would have been even less than this. And so the point is, when you have a really low traffic level shown here, but you can detect that a product is trending upward, it can be the best time to jump on it, because not everybody has taken notice of that keyword phrase until it's showing a decent amount of average monthly searches. I've actually found some of my better product niches that way, by going after something that was currently trending upward, and the real traffic amount might have been 500 to 1,000 for the most recent month, but the average monthly searches may have only been showing 100, 200, maybe 300 or something. Doing it this way, you can find much better traffic with a lot less competition. You can discover where you think your product niche will be 6 months down the road, a year, or even a couple of years down the road. And it's important to kind of take all of this into consideration before you make a final decision. Simply because you don't want to spend all this time building a website that a year, 2 years from now, it's not going to be popular anymore. You want these sites to continue making money for you, continue generating traffic for you over time, and not just a quick flow of cash and then it's over with. So if I go back to my previous example, programmable robot toy. This one again trends upward during the holiday season. For the rest of the month, it is a lot lower though. This is one of those examples where even though it only says 480, and a lot of marketers might ignore this keyword phrase because it is a lower traffic amount, right around the holiday season, you can have 1,300 or even 1,900 monthly searches for it. So this is obviously much, much better in terms of that traffic. This is one way with lower competition that you can tap into some of the higher keyword phrase levels without having to deal with all that extra competition that would normally come along with a keyword phrase that has 1,900 monthly searches. Now, the real question though is, whether or not this keyword phrase with a fairly low but still a reasonable amount of traffic, does this phrase actually have low competition or high competition in the organic search results? So that's what we want to find out next. Once we have kind of gone through our niches and found a decent choice for each, along with the traffic levels, then we can go over to Google to continue investigating this keyword phrase. So if I just type in programmable robot toy, I can use what Google is giving me here as a way to kind of gauge how much competition is going to exist for this keyword phrase. Now, to begin with, the first thing I'm going to check by just searching the keyword phrase is simply how many search results are being offered to me for that phrase. For this one, it's 755,000. Now, I'm not really looking for a specific number here. And ultimately, the number you see here, it's not a make it or break it type of a situation. I'm using this as a way to get a general sense of the amount of pages, the amount of websites that are actually competing for this keyword. It doesn't guarantee that some of them aren't going to be trying a lot harder than others. It doesn't guarantee that some of them may or may not be authority websites that are going to dominate the search results. This is just one piece of the entire puzzle that I am taking into consideration. Now, I have been able to get good search rankings on phrases that have 5 or even 10 million results for this initial search. But then on the other end of the spectrum, I've had some with even less results than this that I had an immense amount of trouble getting a search ranking on. So again, it's not a make it or break it, but it's something that's being used in combination with all the other different pieces of research that I'm going to be showing you. With that said though, if you get a phrase that has billions of results with a B, it's something you're probably going to want to avoid. In those cases, some of the words in your keyword phrase are likely super common words in terms of what is used out there on the internet. If it's too common of a word or a phrase and it gives you a billion results, then it's going to be super, super difficult, if not almost impossible, to rank, because a lot of the results aren't even going to really be that relational to what you want to build your website about. So you probably need to pick a more specific phrase if you're seeing a ton of results that are showing up for your search. So this number is basically telling you how many other pages on the internet are using this exact phrase or something pretty close to it within their content. To find out more specifics though, there are a couple of other searches that we can perform to get a little bit more information. Now, of all the pages that are considered fairly similar to programmable robot toy, there were 755,000. So I'll go ahead and make a note of that. What I'm doing now is I'm enclosing my keyword phrase in quote marks. and I want to perform this search again. Now I have 33,400. Now the difference between this search and the one that I just did before, this one is telling me how many pages on the internet that Google has indexed at least are using this exact phrase and nothing but that somewhere within the content of that page. So about 33,000 websites have the phrase programmable robot toy within that page. This can be fairly representative of the number of people that are really trying to target this phrase. They have either used this phrase on purpose because it has Google traffic available for it, or they've used it accidentally by simply writing content. Either way, the page is generally considered to be going after that keyword. But keep in mind, this number compared with this number is drastically different. There are a lot of other pages being included in that first search result that are not actually using this exact phrase, but they are likely using something very, very close to it, to the point where they are still considering it as decent enough to rank for that original phrase without the quote marks. Now, ultimately, this number that I have gotten back, 33,400, this is a decent number of results. We can, as we go through this process of performing different searches on Google, when we make it more specific, so like when we add the quote marks around it, we're looking for this number to drop quite a bit. We can also start to put a little bit more trust in the number in terms of how it's going to tell us whether there's a lot of competition or not. Now, ultimately, I prefer to see this number when I'm dealing with a search with quotes around it. I want to see this number below 100,000 preferably. This is going to be what I consider to be the lowest amount of competition. However, you can, in some cases at least, still get a search ranking when you have more than 100,000 results for this type of search. I have been able to, by just building content on a site, by just building a good website, I have been able to get into the top 10 for phrases that have more than 1.5 million results for this exact phrase search. But it doesn't happen every time. It gets more difficult. It can take a longer period of time for the higher number of results to actually get a good ranking for them. So I can take this one additional step further. And I'm going to add the phrase all in title before all of this, and then I'm going to add a colon. Performing this search, I'm going to see this number drop again, but this time I want it to drop pretty substantially. All right, that's a pretty good number. 1,470 results now. This number and this search here is telling me how many pages on the internet are not only using this exact phrase, but they're using this exact phrase in the title of the page. So if I look down through these results here, I'm going to see programmable robot toy in every single one of them. This one, I might not see it right away, but this is simply because it's getting cut off here. The phrase still exists in this title. So there are 1,500 other pages on the internet that are using that exact phrase in the title of their page. These pages are almost definitely trying to target this keyword. So there's another reason why I want to see this number to be pretty low. Anything under 1,000 results here, I consider to be very low competition. And anything above 10,000, I consider to be high competition. Now, this again does not guarantee the level of competition. It is more of a general gauge for that level of competition. But when I see 10, 20, 50,000 results for this all in title search, I know that there are so many other pages trying to target this keyword that my chances are not very good to get a ranking for it. So I avoid those. I'm looking for something 1,000 or less, maybe 2,500 or less if I'm willing to deal with a little bit of a longer wait time, if I'm willing to put forth more effort with writing a good amount of content for this keyword. You can deal with the higher result numbers the more work you're willing to do. So keep that in mind. Think about, are you willing to write 500 words per page worth of content? Are you willing to write 1,000 or 2,000 words worth of content per page? And that can kind of determine how many results you're really looking to show up during this all in title search. So with this one being 1,470, this is definitely one that I could feasibly target and get a good search ranking for, just based off of the information that I currently have. Now, on the high end of the scale, I have been able to get good rankings on one phrase with something like 75,000 search results for this all in title search. That's a pretty high amount of competition to actually get a good ranking for it. But I was able to get a number 8 ranking on that first page. So that's kind of what I would consider to be like an upper limit. But it took some time. It took a decent amount of content to be able to get a ranking on that keyword phrase that had 75,000 results for this all in title search. So consider, again, how much work you're willing to do to try to achieve your goals here. Now, one other thing I would like to point out. You can use the normal search phrase and do a little bit of exploring in the search results themselves. Make sure you are not paying attention to these ads. So I want to go down below the ads. So this one right here, the 11 best robotics toys. This one is the number 1 result for this keyword phrase, even though it's 5 down on the list. So right here is where my actual search results begin. What I want to do is look at each of the items that are listed here. And I want to try to get an idea of what these websites are, what they're about, how much of an authority they may potentially contain for this niche. Obviously, domains that you recognize, big box retailers, websites like Amazon, Wikipedia, things that the vast majority of people are going to know and recognize immediately. Those are the sites I would call authority sites, at least the major authority sites. They can be a little stubborn with giving up their search rankings, just simply because those sites have a lot of power behind them in the search rankings. However, it doesn't mean that you can't beat them. But what you really don't want to see is the entire top 10 filled by these powerful websites, basically. Here's one, Toys R Us. Beyond Toys R Us, though, none of these others are really one of those major big national retailers or anything like that. But again, it doesn't guarantee that the other domains, they may or may not be powerful domains. Tom's Guide, for example, is definitely a powerful domain. This is going to be like a review type of website, but this is a major authority type of review site. They have rankings on probably millions of different keyword phrases and probably just as many pages worth of content on their website. I believe Geek Wrapped would be another one kind of similar to that. Robot Toys here, or Robot Shop, looks like it might be an e-commerce store. Some of these other ones are just informational type of content, where they might be ranking some of the best types of these toys. So overall, I do see some power and some authority here, but it also seems like there is a little bit of room to work in some content. I even see some content here that's fairly new, to where this content was just published, say 3-4 months ago. This means that a really good website, a really good page of content that is a newcomer to this keyword phrase, it might have a decent possibility of getting into the rankings. So using all of these things together as a consideration, programmable robot toy seems like it could be a decent potential niche to try to pursue. Now, beyond this research, after you've kind of gone through each of these different product niches that you've selected, after you have picked out a primary keyword phrase to go along with each one of them, you can use this information to, again, do more research on the site if you're still not entirely sure. You can also use it to then start expanding your plans and your keyword list for each individual site. And you do all of this before you actually choose which website you're going to build, because you can use this information to help you figure out which one of these is going to be the best for me to invest my time in to actually build out a website. Now I want to show you how to expand on a keyword phrase and how to start doing some of your site planning to figure out whether or not it's a good product niche to target, whether or not there's even enough information that you could build into an entire 20-page website. That part of the research, though, becomes a little more time consuming. So anything fairly quick and simple that I can do at this initial stage to rule out some of my potential niches is going to be very helpful for me in the long run. There's one other thing that I like to do with a keyword phrase before I start to invest that additional time into more detailed research. This is using the Google Trends website. Google Trends, in a lot of ways, is like this little trend box that we saw in the keyword planner. But instead of seeing 12 months worth of data for this keyword phrase, Google Trends, in a lot of cases, will show us a lot more than just a year's worth of data. However, it's not going to show up on all keywords. If you don't have a certain level of keyword traffic on a specific phrase, then Google Trends might come up with a blank graph. If you do get a blank graph on a search for a keyword that you really want to go for, try making that keyword just a little bit more general instead. You wouldn't necessarily want to change your keyword phrase to that more general phrase, but you can use that as a gauge of what the trends are going to be like. Just as an example here, this search term, you can see the trends are up and down all the time. So this is one way that I can confirm that this trend that I saw in the Christmas season of this past year, this is how I can verify whether it was a one-time trend. Did this niche get really popular and then die off? And is it going to stay at this much lower level? Or is it going to rebound here in the next couple of months for the holiday season? The Google Trends site is how we get to figure that out. So if I look at the peaks for a lot of these, I can sometimes tell what is going on. Now, currently, I'm just seeing 12 months worth of data for this keyword phrase. So I can tell that, yeah, it was really popular last holiday season up here. But to see past that, I need to change this. I can look at past 5 years, I can look at 2004 until present. A lot of times, though, you won't have keyword data going that far back into the future. This one, surprisingly, has some data that was showing up all those years ago. You want to be able to get an accurate picture, though, of what's really going on. If possible, change your location to the United States. But again, if you eliminate too much of the search traffic, then it might not show it to you anymore. It might give you a blank graph. So I can see here, this is the last holiday season. It was popular. And if I look over here, I can see that this was the previous holiday season. So it does seem to be seasonal in terms of each Christmas, it gets popular, and then the levels kind of die back off. But I can also kind of tell popularity over time, going from one peak to the next. It looks like it was most popular the Christmas before last, and it actually lost a little bit of popularity last year, but not a lot of it. It's still holding pretty strong. And so I can kind of figure out, how high will this end up reaching this particular year? Do I think it's going to keep going up? Do I think it's going to decrease a little bit? On this one, it kind of looks like there's a chance that it could decrease slightly. However, if there are new products that keep coming out in this line that are gaining a lot of popularity, it could definitely rebound and start heading the other direction. Programmable robot toys, I feel like, is a product niche that will keep evolving over time. There likely will keep releasing new ones each year, and the sophistication and technology level in those will likely keep rising too. So I could totally see this product niche having a revitalization in one of these future years and going higher instead of continuing to drop lower. It might even reach a new peak beyond what it saw a couple of years ago. So taking all this into consideration, this seems like, again, it's potentially a pretty decent niche that I could pursue. So once I have reached a point where I have a good collection of these primary keyword phrases that I could potentially use for these different product niches. So what I've done here for Robot Building Kit, figuring out whether or not my primary keyword phrase could be a potentially good idea for an entire website in terms of traffic that's available, in terms of competition that is out there. Then I can expand on this research a little bit. What I want to do is go into the keyword planner and try to find more keywords for this same niche. But I'm not just looking for random keywords. I'm looking for keywords that relate to what I was originally doing, but I'm looking for separate ideas. These separate ideas will be used for the individual pages of this website. So with Programmable Robot Toy, I can't really build 20 pages all about programmable robot toys, but each individual page of that site could cover a different subtopic of my main topic. So what I mean by that is, if I look through some of these keywords here, I have robots for kids, robot kits for kids, robot toys for kids, robot toys for toddlers. So I might have a robots for kids / toddlers type of page. There's also different kinds. I might have remote control, dancing robot. I have ones for adults. I have ones that you build. We have ones that talk. So all of these different things are different subtopics of this main idea that I have for the entire website. We have coding, we have Lego, we have Mini, dinosaur. So doing this, we're taking this main keyword, we're taking this main product niche that we've come up with, and we're breaking it down into different kinds. This way, if I build a page about programmable dinosaur robots, about mini programmable robots, about Lego programmable robots, I cover a lot of different aspects of this entire product niche. I'm covering a lot of different keyword phrases. I'm giving myself something different to write about on each of these pages. And most importantly, I'm giving myself different products that I can feasibly promote. So I'm not just limited to promoting one specific programmable robot toy. I can have a bunch of different ones that I target. I can target a dinosaur one. I can target a mini one. I can target a Lego brand. I can target some for kids. I can target some for adults. I can target some that talk or dance or are remote control. So with this perspective on it, it expands the keywords that I can target, it expands the products that I can feasibly promote. Now, one other way that you can go about building some of these keyword phrases is to go back to Amazon at this point. Do a little bit more research on this niche. Try to find what some of the more popular brands are for this type of product. So I'm going to search programmable robot on Amazon. And I can see as I scroll through here that there are different brands that go along with these. Wonder Workshop, Anki, MakeBlock, it looks like I've seen a couple different times. Tenergy, RoboLink. So I can take these words and I can add them to my list here. I can also use, at a quick glance, these different review ratings and the number of review ratings that shows up on them to gauge whether or not they're popular. Anki is obviously very popular, has a ton more reviews than a lot of these other ones do. Wonder Workshop still has a pretty decent amount, especially when you compare it to something like Silverlit here that only has 4 reviews. So these I'd probably want to avoid. Some of these with a couple hundred might be better to try to pursue. So I've given myself a listing of a number of different brands that are available for it, and I can then go back to the keyword planner and I can search these. So I could search Anki robot and try to find out, is there search traffic available for this term? So I can see Anki robot does indeed have traffic available for it, and it follows the same type of trend like the main keyword phrase was following. So doing something like this, I can find if there is a decent way to try to target those specific products within my main niche. I can find different keyword phrases that I would want to be using within a page about the Anki robots. I can even then continue on over to Google and find out how much competition there's going to be for these specific keyword phrases. So doing all of this stuff together, I'm giving myself an idea of not just the main keyword phrase and whether competition might be low enough for it, but I can gauge traffic and competition levels for the rest of the keyword phrases that I would potentially want to target on this site. And by doing this, I can see what the potential for the entire website is. Now, you do not have to have every phrase on a site be 500 monthly searches and a low amount of competition. You can target some phrases that are a lot higher in terms of traffic and competition, but you need to have at least some that are going to be lower traffic, lower competition phrases, such as this one, because they will be the most likely ones that are going to give you a good search ranking without a lot of trouble. But again, when you're building your whole website around this one topic, it's worth going after some of these better phrases, such as this one, because you will inevitably end up getting rankings on at least some of these other phrases that you try to target. Now, the main point of all this, besides ensuring that there's traffic available, besides ensuring that the competition is not too extremely high, this also tells you whether your niche is feasible to build an entire website centered around. Each one of these keywords, as long as they are a separate idea, a separate subtopic, if you will, of your main website topic, each one of these keywords can then become its own page on your site. So you can calculate how many pages you could build on a site that is addressing this one topic. So I can see I have 6 different brands picked out. I can have a brands page that links them all together. So that's 7 pages right here. I then have these different types or subtopics available to me. And this is another 10. I could then have a main page for these. So this could be a main informational type of page as far as, I could maybe call this types of programmable robots. So that gives me 11 pages here, another 7 here, so that puts me at 18. I always have a home page on the website, and I usually always put an about page on the website that's just going to have some general information on it and not really target a keyword phrase itself. So my home page would target my primary keyword phrase. And then I would have an info page and a brands page section on that home page, and that will link up to these pages. And then these pages will link up to the rest of them. So this is kind of my entire website hierarchy here. Altogether though, these topics, 7 down here, 11 here, that's 18, 19, and 20. So this gives me a full 20-page website. So I definitely believe that there are enough different topics about my main idea that I could potentially write about. So this one again checks out during this phase as being a good potential niche that I could try to pursue. I would obviously want to go deeper into the research for each of these individual keywords, ensure that there is enough separate content that I could write about these different topics to make for an entire page. I want to be able to write at least 500 words, if not more, on each of these different topics. And it should be different information on each of these pages, not the same thing being repeated over and over again. I would also want to check on traffic levels and competition levels for each of these phrases to ensure that I am going to have some keywords with decent traffic that are going to offer low competition, because that's where I'm most likely going to end up getting the bulk of my traffic from. When all this stuff checks out, then you could consider actually selecting one of your product niches as the one that you're going to use to build out a new website. So once I have reached that particular point, I feel like it's then a good time to pursue a domain name. I used to put a little more focus into the domain name search years ago than I do now. The reason for this is because I used to go after an exact match domain. What I mean by that is my primary keyword phrase, programmable robot toy. I would want this to be available as a .com domain name. So I might go here and search for this keyword phrase. I remove the spaces from it, and I see if the .com is available or not. Now, shockingly, this one actually is still available. So I could feasibly choose this domain to be the domain for my site. But it's also kind of a long domain name. Whenever possible, I want my domain to be as short as I can make it. The shorter domains seem to get rankings a lot easier. I can also kind of combine these strategies where I might use a piece of what I'm trying to target as my primary keyword phrase. So with programmable robot toy, maybe I would use just the word robot somewhere in my domain name. I could make it short and sweet. I could make it robot toys. I could make it something to where the rest of the domain, besides the word robot, it might not even be a keyword phrase. I could just call it Ryan's Robots. Shockingly, Ryan's Robots is taken, but programmable robot toy or toys was not. You can kind of see though how doing these types of searches to try to find an available domain, it doesn't have to be a perfect domain name. It doesn't have to be an exact match domain name. But if you can find one, that's great. Consider how long it is, how readable your domain name is, whether it's going to be easy to remember or not. A lot of different factors go into this domain name hunt. You don't have to kill yourself over it though. You can totally go for something short and sweet and simple like this. If people can look at your domain and have any kind of an idea of what your entire website's going to be about, that's definitely a plus. Now, there are a lot of other ways you can go about this type of domain name hunt. One of them is to go to the Google Keyword Planner. I'm going to go back to this original listing that I had for programmable robot toy. Using this listing, I can see that it is giving me 496 different keywords. I can download these keywords to an Excel spreadsheet. Then I can open this spreadsheet and use this information to try to help me find what I'm looking for, to try to help me find an exact match domain if I'm really hard up for having one of them. And when I try to open this file up, this spreadsheet file, it's going to have coding in it basically that determines how this gets split up into different columns. Now I am using OpenOffice. It's from openoffice.org. It's basically a free version of the Microsoft Office package. This is the page that shows up when I try to open this spreadsheet file. And I can see down here that everything is being grouped into one column for this file. And this is actually not what I want to happen. If I click on the tab checkbox here, you can see it finally separates everything into separate columns for me. So this is what I want to see before I actually open this file up. So now I have a listing of all these keywords that were available to me within the Google Keyword Planner. So I can take all of these keyword phrases, and if I select this entire column and then copy it, I can go over into a notepad file and paste all of that. So now I have a listing of all these keywords just in this notepad file. The reason I like to do this is because I can use this replace function, and I can just type in a space for what to find, and I can replace it with nothing. And that removes all of the spaces from this list for me. So now I just have a list of these different phrases. There are a couple of occasions where you might have to edit some of these out. I saw one a second ago. Anything with a basically any other type of punctuation. An apostrophe for this one, that one won't work. You can use the replace thing once again to replace all apostrophes with nothing, for example. A period is another commonly found one. So I could replace periods with nothing. This ensures that nothing exists in this entire list that's not a number or a letter, basically. So by doing that, I can take that entire list and I can actually paste it into GoDaddy. If I click on domains and then click on bulk domain search, I can put in a list of up to 500 domain names that I want to try to find. I can click .com over here and I can click on go. And it's going to search that entire list for me and let me know which one or which ones have the exact match domain available for it. So I can see that actually 431 of those have the exact match .com domain name available. Now obviously I was searching a really large list, and that list wasn't sorted or anything like that, and quite a few of them have a really low amount of traffic, so I wouldn't want to be using most of those domains. But I could take this entire list and I could sort them by the traffic amounts. That would be column D here. So I could search all of these column Ds and try to sort them out. I had originally just opened this as a read-only file because I had directly downloaded it and then just opened it. So it was a temp file. I needed to save this to my computer first, and now it will actually let me do some sorting here. So I could sort by column D, and this is going to put my low traffic phrases on one part and my higher traffic phrases on another. So if I wanted, say, at least 210 monthly searches, I could just copy that portion of the list and do the same thing that I did before. Go back to GoDaddy, search for .com versions of those domains, and anything that shows up on this list will actually have a decent amount of traffic available for the keyword phrase it's trying to target. Now, a lot of these were actually already included in this list. I would need to start over here. So of that list, I was able to find 62 of them that have decent traffic, and the exactmatch.com domain is available for them. So this is just one strategy that you could use for trying to find an available domain name. You don't have to individually search through them one by one. You could just make a list of all your different possibilities in a notepad file like I did with the keywords, except do that with, whatever potential domain name you might be willing to go for. And then you can search for them all in one fell swoop. Shorten the process quite a bit. So once I know what keyword phrase I want to try to target, once I know that it's going to be a good potential niche in terms of good traffic, low competition, that there are enough different individual topics where I can actually build this entire website from it. This gives me a lot more information to go off of. And if I've done this for 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 different product niches, I can easily look at all of these different niches and have a lot clearer picture in terms of which one has the most potential, which one will be worthwhile for me to try to build out. Now, if you have any issues trying to find different topics for one given product niche, especially if you've done Amazon and you've done the different keyword ideas and you're having issues locating truly different topics, the ad group ideas is, again, another good place to get some new ideas. This will typically break things down into many of these subtopics for you. Programmable, code toys, Lego, remote, kits, dancing, stuff for kids, educational, interactive, dinosaurs. So this is a pretty decent majority of all of these different subtopics that I was able to come up with. So then I could take some of these subtopics and find other keyword phrases that I could use for them. Robots for kids, as an example. What would be the best keyword phrase to use to try to target that page? I could figure that out by looking at this list here. So I would probably want to use one of these top 3 keyword phrases because all of these have at least 100 monthly searches on them. So these would be my best choices for being the primary keyword phrase, for possibly being a part of the title of this particular page on my website. I can again go back to Google and try to confirm that there would actually be low competition on whichever keyword phrase I select. So with your own work, take the list of your potential Amazon product niches that you got together from the previous class. Come over here to Google and the Google Keyword Planner. Do some research with those phrases here. Figure out how much competition, how much traffic are going to be with each of those product niches. Try to pick out a primary keyword phrase for that product niche. Try to expand on that product niche with more keyword phrases, and even do some research for some of these phrases as well to ensure that you have a number of them that are going to offer decent traffic and that are going to offer low competition. And then use all of this information to figure out which product niche would be the best to target based on the information that you have. Now we will be continuing on in the next lesson with this same type of knowledge, really, where we're going to refine this list of keywords and potential page topics. We're going to narrow it down into 20 of them and have a complete plan for the website that we are going to be building for this product niche. So begin with where you left off from the previous class. Take your listing of product niches, expand those out, determine whether they would be good choices or not, figure out whether or not you would have enough different topics to build a 20-page website around. And then in the next class, we will actually take these lists and start planning the entire website out.